Alrighty, in my last video I showed you my SHIFTY bushings that were carbon fiber nylon. I've heard about the 608 bearings, the skateboard bearings, to replace this instead of using anything else because they're readily available and relatively cheap. These are relatively cheap, but this one's a fancy flanged 440C stainless steel sealed bearing. So this one costs a little bit more, but let's take a look at how these would work in place of what I have. There it is. Pull the cotter pin out. Get a pair of pliers and pull the clip out. Careful, don't hurt yourself, as I have before. Now this whole thing should lift out, just like before. See how easy this was? Push the bushing out. There you go. Back on the top side here, I want to show you the difference between my SHIFTY bushing and one of these bearings. So this is a 608 standard bearing. You can see that it's about half the height of one of these. I suppose if you stack two of them together, you're roughly at exactly the same height. A little bit shorter still, but it should be okay. A Japanese viewer commented on my video and said I should look at the 608 bearings because that's what they use in Japan. And they even linked me a particular video to watch. In that video, that guy ended up having to shave down the outer diameter of the bearing. They had like some sort of a sander mounted on the drill press, and they literally sanded the outside edge of this thing down. So I'm curious, I haven't measured this with calipers, but right here, I can feel it in my fingers. It's a little bit wider than this, and that's probably what they were doing with the sander. In the particular video I watched, they used one bearing after sanding it down, and they added washers to compensate for the thickness up here, and then they put the cotter pin over the top. Looking at the other fancy bearings, this one has a flanged edge, just like my bushing does. So this should be able to hold the shifter ring on the thing without needing a washer. Let's check out all the different stuff here. This is my bushing, the SHIFTY bushing. Doesn't have any play in it because it's so tall and it is the exact diameter of this shaft. This is the standard 608 bearing. Checking this on the shaft too. Falls right on like it's supposed to. It has a little bit of play. It's not a big deal. It's probably like a thousandth of an inch or something. I don't know. But it has a little wiggle to it. See how this is so much lower? I'm going to see if this even fits on it. And yeah, the answer is no. That's why that guy had to shave a smidge off of the outer diameter of this thing. Just for a height check, I'm going to put two of these on top of each other. And there it is. Okay. See how this looks with the cotter pin in here. It still has a little bit of play, so maybe one washer worth to put on top if you just want to use two bearings. Alright, next up, I'm going to use the fancy flanged bearing. Put that on. Same amount of play because it is a 608 bearing. Let's see, does this one fit? And the answer should be no because it is a 608 bearing. And that is correct. This does not fit. Let's see how this would have worked though. This one would have been like this. Oh, that looks nice. With the flange on the bottom and the flange on top, this hoop would have been right in the center between those two. Now, let's see how this fits. Theoretically, it's a little bit different, but probably not. Oh, look. This fits really nice. This is actually the proper height. Okay. Why would this be different? It's got to be the flange. But this fits real nice. The only thing is, this is not the same proper fit to the hoop here. So this would be a really fancy option to do this. It's a shame that the inner diameter of this does not fit into here without any slight modification. I suppose you could widen the inner diameter of this out. You probably shouldn't do that. You should opt to modify the bearings. That way you're not messing with the car. But for now, I have my bushing. I don't really need this. Just for the heck of it, I want to weigh all this stuff. This is the weight of my bushing. It's 3.3 grams. Let's see, it's 0.1164 ounce. It is 0.007 pound. Let's add this required retaining pin. Now it's 6.7 grams, 2.363 ounce, 0.014 pound. Okay, and that's the stuff that would be required for this to work. Now I'm going to weigh these two fancy bearings here. These are 25.7 grams, 0.9065 ounce,
and 0.056 pounds. So these are significantly heavier than obviously that thing, but oh man, they do look nice. The other one would be maybe stack 2 of these together. One is 11.9, 0.4162 ounce, and 0.026 pound. You would have 2, so it's 0.051 pound, 23.4 gram, and 0.82-ish ounces. But keep in mind that this doesn't even include the washer that you would need to make up that little bit of a difference between the height. And so just throw another few grams on here. However, you would be shaving down some of the outer diameter, so theoretically you're going to be losing some weight, but whatever.
All right, now to put everything back once again. Ooh. Put that in. Pop the pin back in. There we go.
I wanted to give you an update on what's going on with these hinges that hold this trunk lid on. You can see that they're still flexy, just as bendy as ever. But we're finally at the part where we can actually get this fully drawn out. The thing that held me up was I only had the blueprint of this thing that somebody uploaded. I didn't have this part where this pin kind of goes through and holds this so it can mount underneath there. It's a pretty simple piece, so it should be able to be drawn up real quick. The big issue here that slows everything down is getting this stuff actually put into production. And production is expensive. And plus, it also doesn't help that I actually have a wood shop in here. You can see all the woodworking equipment and all the wood hoarding because I can't make this. A few things I do want to upgrade here for these things. Of course, if you have a bent, damaged one, you just want a working one, it doesn't really matter. But for those of you that have a working one and you need a reason to replace it, it would be just stiffening this thing up so it doesn't do that. I'm thinking maybe some sort of 1/4 inch aluminum. I'm not sure yet, just to keep the weight similar. I don't want to add like a 5-pound brick of hinge just because you don't want it to do that. The next thing would be reasons where you need to take the trunk lid off for whatever reason. When I took this off to get this paint matched and whatever, this was a pain in the butt for me to realign. There's not really any way to do it. If you actually watch the factory assembly VHS video, you'll see that they have like this whole jig that holds this and mounts onto the car here somewhere, and then that way you can bolt everything on real nice. I don't have one of those things. So I had to manually put on these bolts, tighten them a little bit, close, open, and shift it around and hope I don't mess it up every time I tightened it. But I still ended up doing it. I'm not 100% happy with it, but it's pretty damn good. The only thing here I can change would be changing how the hinge works. If it's a quick detach hinge, you can just pop the guy out right there, and then you can just remove this whole thing without messing up with your alignment because the hinge goes exactly where it's going to be. The pivot point's going to be exactly the same spot. You just pop that back in, and then you're in business. All right, thank you for watching. Visit my site, anythingwheel.com. Poke around in there. Maybe you'll find some knickknacks or some parts that you'll want that I have available already. I'm going to go back to working on this thing now. I really want to get my truck working again so I can transport my snowblower around when winter comes, and it's like the middle of November now. Winter is coming.